Okay, we proceed with our next discussion on the use of JAST in running dependent samples t-test. Here, the paired samples t-test, okay, is used to determine whether the mean difference between paired observations is statistically significantly different from zero. The participants are either the same individuals tested at two time points or under two different conditions or treatments on the same dependent variable. Alternatively, you could have two groups of participants that have been matched or paired, okay, on one or more characteristics. Say, for example, you pair them according to their IQ, their age, or gender, and tested on one dependent variable. Now, the paired samples t-test is also referred to as dependent t-test or repeated measures t-test or simply abbreviated to the paired t-test. Now, for the rest of our discussion, I'm going to refer to paired samples t-test as paired t-test, right? Now, the parametric paired t-test, also known as dependent samples t-test or repeated measures t-test, as what we've indicated earlier, compares the means between two related groups, okay, on the same continuous dependent variable. Now, for example, looking at weight loss, okay, pre and post 10 weeks of dieting. Now here, what we see here is the paired t statistic. So how the t value is computed. That is the mean of the differences between group pairs, then divided by the standard error of the mean differences. Now with the paired t-test, the null hypothesis, okay, is that the pairwise difference between the two groups is zero. Okay. Now, what are the assumptions that we need to keep in mind or the basic requirements needed in order to run the paired samples t-test? Now, there are four assumptions required for a paired t-test to provide a valid result. That is, the dependent variable should be measured on a continuous scale. That is either in the interval or in the ratio level. Okay. Now, the independent variable should consist of two categorical related or matched groups. That is, each participant is matched in both of the groups. Okay. And then the differences between the matched pairs should be approximately normally distributed. So we will be testing the normality, okay, of the distribution of the differences between the matched pairs. Now, there should be no significant outliers also in the differences between the two groups, right? Now, let's go over some designs, okay, wherein we can utilize paired t-test. Okay, now say for example, in your study, you would want to determine if there are changes over time between two related groups, okay? So you start off with your sample, right? And at the first time point, okay, you measure your sample at a certain dependent variable. Okay. Then after an interval of time, and at the second time point, you are also going to measure the same set of participants, okay, under the same dependent variable. All right. So say for example, I have our class wherein everybody will be given a pre-test. Okay. Then let's say after uh 2 months, okay, I'm going to give you a post-test. Okay. So everyone who participated in the pre-test will be the same set of participants who will have to take the post-test. Okay, then we can use paired t-tests, okay, to compare differences at the two time points. Okay, so you say, for example, you may be interested to find out whether the scores on the dependent variable are different between the two time points. Okay, and here, let's take this particular example. Now, say health professionals want to investigate the medium-term effect of a hypnotherapy program on the daily cigarette use of heavy smokers. Okay, now say for example here, we imagine that the Department of Health is interested in possible interventions that could help heavy smokers reduce their cigarette consumption and ideally quit smoking. One such intervention is the use of hypnotherapy. While short-term results have been encouraging, with an economically accepted proportion of heavy smokers reducing their cigarette consumption 1 month after a hypnotherapy program. Now, the Department of Health wants to know whether medium-term results are also encouraging, that is, whether cigarette consumption is lower 6 months after the hypnotherapy program compared to pre-hypnotherapy. Okay? So, in this scenario, to test this null hypothesis, a study was designed using a random sample of 30 heavy smokers. Now, at the start of the experiment, the cigarette consumption of smokers, okay, which is measured, okay, for each of the 30 participants. These participants then underwent a hypnotherapy program designed to help them quit smoking, which will run for 6 months. Finally, 6 months after the completion of the hypnotherapy program, the cigarette consumption of the 30 participants was then again measured. Okay? So we are interested in the following research question. Is there a difference or is there a significant difference in daily cigarette use among heavy smokers 6 months after a hypnotherapy program? Okay, so we formulate our null hypothesis, right? Now that is, there is no significant difference in daily cigarette use among heavy smokers 6 months after a hypnotherapy program. Okay. And then our alternative hypothesis correspondingly would be there is a significant difference in daily cigarette use among heavy smokers 6 months after the hypnotherapy program. So what will be our dependent variable and independent variables? Let's identify them. Our dependent variable, what we're measuring, okay, is the number of cigarettes smoked daily, which is referred to as cigarette consumption. Okay? Now, our independent variable is time because there were two time points. Right? Now, the time here has two levels. The first time point is that before the start of the hypnotherapy program, and the second time point would be 6 months after completion of the hypnotherapy program. Okay, so time here or time points would be our independent variable, right? Now, the paired samples t-test will be used here to determine whether any difference between the two related groups, okay, that is, between the two time points would be statistically significant. Okay? Now, another design. Say, you would want to determine if there are differences between conditions. Okay, so that it would involve two different conditions or two different treatments. Now, in the study design, you want to determine if there are differences in the scores of whatever dependent variable you're measuring between two related groups. Now, in this instance, the two related groups are your treatments. Okay, now earlier it was time point, so time one and time two. Now, you will be dealing with treatments or conditions. Okay, say you have treatment one or condition one, and you have treatment two or condition two. Okay. Now, if you have a study design where the same participants are being measured on the same dependent variable, but under two different conditions, then we're going to use paired t-test. In other words, here, participants are receiving both conditions in the study. So both of them would be exposed to the two treatments. This can either be short-term conditions. Let's say, for example, the time it took them to react, okay, in a 10-second period under two different lighting conditions. So say in a room where there is blue light and a different room or a second room wherein there is red light. So they may be asked to enter a room with blue light, okay, for 10 seconds, all right? And then how long they reacted will be recorded. And similarly, when they enter a room with red light, their reaction time will also be measured. Okay? Another scenario, say for longer term conditions, such as a 6-week control and exercise training program with cholesterol concentration measured at the end of each. Okay, so let's have the following diagram so that we can clearly see if you would want to see, if you would want to determine if there are differences between two treatments or conditions. You start off with your sample. Okay. Now, in the first treatment or in the first condition, okay, you expose your participants. Okay. Then you measure them in a particular dependent variable. Okay. So say, for example, in this case here, the first condition would be they have to enter a room with blue light. Then the dependent variable that is being measured would be how long they reacted, or what we refer to as reaction time. Okay. Now, the same set of participants will be asked to enter a second room wherein there is red light now. Okay, so the second condition is that there is red light or in that room, and how long they reacted will also be recorded, or the reaction time. Okay, so finally, in this case, you would want to find out if the scores, okay, or the reaction time, okay, is different between uh, the blue light room and the red light room. Okay, so between the two conditions where you have exposed your participants. Okay, another scenario or another design, that is if you would want to determine if there are differences between measurements. Okay, now say if you have a study design where the same participants are being measured on a different dependent variable, but using the same measurement scale. So a paired samples t-test will be appropriate. For example, you are measuring gene expression for two different genes in each participant, and you want to know which gene is expressed the most, which has the highest value in this case. Okay? Another possible design is that you would want to determine if there are differences between matched pairs. Okay? What do we mean by that? It is also possible to match individuals or any type of case, okay, on similar characteristics so that they are no longer considered to be independent cases. For example, identical twins are not often considered to be independent. Okay, so they're not different. So what the statement would indicate. However, they are matched pairs. Okay, another example, you might match participants by gender, okay, or by height or weight and other biological measures so that they are now considered as matched. Okay, so instead of the usual independent samples t-test, you could now run a paired samples t-test because they are now matched. Okay, so matching can also occur in situations where you are looking at two biological parts on the same participant. So for example, you might want to measure any particular performance difference between participants' left and right legs. Okay, so the left leg will kick a ball, and the distance that a ball can be kicked will be measured using the left leg and also using the right leg. Okay, or differences in eyesight between left and right eyes. So they are matched. Okay, so you are now comparing differences between the matched pairs, right? So an independent or a dependent t-test or a paired t-test can be used here. Okay. Now let us proceed to run a paired t-test in JASP. Okay. We will need the paired t-test.csv file. Okay. So you need to open it. In a separate video, I'm going to demonstrate how to run a paired t-test in JASP. Okay. Now here, we will proceed with this guide wherein this contains two columns of paired data. So in this particular file, the paired t-test, what you will see will be two columns of paired data, that is pre-diet body mass and post 4 weeks of dieting. Okay. And what will we do when you open it using JASP? We go to t-test, then we choose paired samples t-test under classical. Okay. Then you click both or control click both variables and add them to the analysis box on the right. Okay. So we have the pre-diet body mass and then the post 4 weeks diet. Okay. Now, what are the things that we need to include, okay, so that our JASP output may be able to generate them? Now, we need to tick student t-test under tests, our alternative hypothesis is that measure 1 is not equal to measure 2 because our alternative hypothesis is stated that there is a significant difference, okay, between the two. And our assumption checks, we need to check the normality, okay? And the normality of the of the difference of the scores, okay, should be met in order for us to use the paired t-test. Otherwise, you would have to use the non-parametric equivalent, which is the Wilcoxon signed rank test. Okay. We will also need to generate additional statistics. That is our location parameter, which will include the confidence interval at 95%. We will generate the effect size. Okay. And we will also generate the descriptive table, which will include the mean and standard deviation, and also the descriptive plots. So we will see a graphical presentation comparing the mean distribution of the two groups that we have. Okay. And by default, missing values, this one is already ticked. Okay. Now, the outputs that we're going to generate, okay, will be consist of three tables. So we will go over them one by one. Okay. And the graphical presentation of our descriptive plot. Okay, so let's go over them. We will start off with the test of normality to find out if we have met the assumption for the distribution of the difference of the scores to be normally distributed. Otherwise, we would have to proceed to use the non-parametric equivalent, which is um, the Wilcoxon signed rank test. Okay, now let's have the following. Okay, so to check for the test of normality, you refer to this table. Okay. Now we look at the p-value. Okay, so the p-value generated of the difference of the two scores that we have here, okay, is 0.124, which is greater than 0.05. That means here, the assumption for normality is not violated. Okay, so the assumption check for normality under this test of normality table is not significant because the p-value is greater than 0.05, suggesting that the pairwise differences are normally distributed. Therefore, the assumption is not violated. Okay, so take note, if this showed a significant difference, the analysis should be repeated using the non-parametric equivalent, which is the Wilcoxon signed rank test. Okay. Now, we will also report the effect size, okay, which can be found in the paired samples t-test table, okay? Now, you will be required to report effect sizes less often than statistical significance, particularly in the undergraduate level. However, as what we've indicated, they are becoming a more common method of analysis with each passing year, and some journals are now insisting on the inclusion, okay, of effect sizes. So for paired samples t-test, the same measure we're going to use as what we've had in independent samples t-test, where we're going to use Cohen's d, okay, with the following values. Okay, so if the effect size is less than 0.2, we have a trivial effect. Okay, small effect will be between 0.2 and 0.5. Medium effect will be between 0.5 and 0.8. And then 0.8 and above, we will have large effect size. Okay, now let us refer to the paired samples t-test table. So these were the things that we ticked in the analysis box. Okay, that's why we have generated these values, right? Now we refer to the p-value that we have here so that this will guide us on our decision either to reject the null hypothesis or not reject the null hypothesis. Okay. Now, since the p-value is less than 0.001, which is obviously less than 0.05, then our decision is to reject the null hypothesis. Okay. Rejecting the null hypothesis would mean to say we're going to utilize the alternative hypothesis, and the alternative hypothesis indicates that there is a significant difference. Okay, so this shows that there is a significant difference in body mass between the pre and post dieting conditions with the mean difference. Okay, so we also utilize the mean difference that we have here, right? And we have to use also Cohen's d. So Cohen's d indicates 1.476, which is greater than zero point 0.8. Hence, there is a large effect. Okay, so we will go back to this later on to come up with our complete interpretation or conclusion. Right? Now let's go back to the descriptive table. Right? The descriptive statistics and plot show that there was a reduction in body mass following the 4 weeks of dieting. So if you notice, the mean body mass pre-diet is 72.526 kilograms. Okay, that's why pre-diet body mass in the graphical presentation, we see this value of the mean, which is 72.526 kilograms. Okay, and the mean, um, the mean value for post 4 weeks diet is 68.744 kilograms. And in the graphical presentation, we see that it is lower, okay, than the pre-diet body mass. So that means to say there was indeed a reduction. Okay. Now that reduction, is it significant or not? Which is now complemented with our, I'm proceeding to the previous slide, with the paired samples t-test result indicating that our p-value is less than 0.05, okay, wherein we rejected the null, indicating that indeed the difference, okay, or the decrease is significant. Okay. Now, let's put everything in our conclusion. Okay, so from the paired samples t-test table, we will need the following statistical parameters to be included in our conclusion. Okay, so we will need the degrees of freedom, the t-test statistic value. Okay, then we will need the p-value. We also include the mean difference and our Cohen's d value, indicating large effect. Okay. Now we say a paired sample t-test was used to determine whether there was a statistically significant mean difference in weight loss before and after 4 weeks of dieting. On average, participants lost 3.782 kilograms, which is actually our mean difference. So they lost an average of 3.72 kilograms because there was a reduction from pre to post 4 weeks diet. Okay, following a 4 week diet plan. Now, results showed this decrease to be significant. Okay, and then copy these parameters or these values that we need to support our claim that there was or the decrease is significant. Okay, with a p-value less than 0.001. And don't forget to include Cohen's d of 1.476, suggesting that this is a large effect. Okay, so this is how we interpret JASP output in running paired samples t-test. Okay, and I have a list of reference here, right, to end our discussion.